sort of bridge the gap between our just to bridge the gap between our high performance athletes and the rest of our diving community. And we also just wanted to help our up and coming divers understand that there's no magic formula to get to be a high performance athlete. It just takes a little bit of work and dedication. So this is the second one that we've got, and this is a Liam Stone. Before we start, Liam, I'll just do a little bit of an intro for you. So I think Liam's been involved with diving in New Zealand about as long as I have. We've been around for a while. I'm just going to rattle off a few of Liam's achievements. Multiple New Zealand title. You've still got some records from Group B, and then obviously an Open. And then just correct me as I go through. Three Junior Worlds. Highly successful in the American collegiate system, having some good success at NCAA level. Multiple Grand Prix, World Cups, 3 Commonwealth Games, and 6 World Championships.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive CV, Liam. So, as we did with Lizzie, the starting point for these athlete insights is going to be take us right back to the beginning. At what point did you think this is the sport I want to do? Or was there any time where you just sort of thought, right, I really like this diving, and the switch was flipped? And could you just talk us through that?
Well, going way back to when I first started, I started because my brother Nick, who dived for Canada, came over, showed me a few things in our backyard pool here, and I thought I want to be like him. So I went down and gave diving a crack. So that was kind of the inspiration for starting. And I suppose marching forward, I had a bit of success at my first competition and, first domestic comps and stuff like that. I think you were there, James. Um, and uh, and then, as a kid, I tried every sport I could, but I was quite good at diving. So I kind of made the decision I'd like to focus on it. And at that time, Junior Worlds was kind of on the horizon. So we were sitting down and talking a bit more seriously about what diving could look like for me. And we decided to give Junior Worlds a crack, which was back in 2010. So that's when I decided to solely focus on diving, and I suppose came up with the dream of being a diver going right the way through to the Olympics. And then, went to my first Junior Worlds, and that was with you, James, in 2010.
Could I just ask you, just leading into Junior Worlds, Liam, and before that, and before you knew what you had to do, how was your fear management side of the sport? Were you always up there willing to give things a go, or were you a little bit hesitant?
Nah, quite the opposite. I was a wuss. I, I can remember being too scared to jump off 3 meter. And that was a big issue for me, actually, because I kept, wanting to be good at the sport, but I was too scared to try anything. Um, and that went on for quite a while, even all the way up until we were starting to have those conversations about Junior Worlds. And I remember there was a training camp we had, a national training camp, and I was looking at learning back 2.5 and reverse 2.5 and those sorts of dives, but I wouldn't even do a back lineup. And so I remember having a word with myself, kind of thinking, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to start facing these fears. Um, and I still would get scared, but I went about it a bit differently. There was a real turning point when I was about 12 or 13, somewhere around there.
And could you just give us a little bit of insight into what that? Obviously, you had a word with yourself, but then when you decided that you were going to take the step and give things a go, did they turn out better than you thought it would? Did you find that you'd been worrying unnecessarily?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what changed was the drive for wanting success was higher than the fear of the dive going wrong, and so I started to overcome those fears. And yeah, you're right. Most of the time, I was scared of splatting or hitting the board or whatever it was, and it never really happened. And I remember one time I had quite a bad splat, and it was kind of like, oh well, if that's as bad as it gets, then maybe I can do this. So It was a constant thing, but I think, as I said, there was a real point of if you want to be good at this, and people would say this to me as well, then you're going to have to face these fears and do these dives. And so we started to, I suppose, talk about that a bit more and think about overcoming the fear rather than just letting the fear stop me from doing anything.
So you managed that. You got to World Juniors, and then is it fair to say that your career started to take off in a pretty good way? Could you just let us know when was the first time that you felt as though you'd achieved a real milestone, and you sort of thought, yeah, I've made it a little bit here. I've started to achieve what I've set out to achieve. Is there one particular event that you can think of?
Yeah, I think probably Commonwealth Games in 2014. That was a real goal for me after watching the 2010 Commonwealth Games. And that was the stepping stone to the Olympics. And that was 2014 was my first year of senior international events. So it was kind of, I'm now a senior diver. I've been to these junior worlds and other junior events, but now I was kind of diving with my heroes and being at Com Games, in and around the not just the diving part of it, but also all the other sports, the village, Team New Zealand, the real pride that comes with that, walking into the opening ceremony and, things that I dreamed of, and now I was actually getting to live them. And I remember my first dive at the Com Games, I was so horrendously nervous, but it was also a bit of a moment of, wow, I'm at the Commonwealth Games, I'm doing, living my dream, So that was probably the first moment of, I'm doing this thing, um, and yeah, I guess here I am still going.
Would you say then from Glasgow 2014, 2015, you went over to America, started diving in the college system. Would you say that your successes were just on a big upturn and things were going really, really well?
Yeah. I mean, I had Com Games and I did all right there. I had I think I was sixth or seventh on one of my events, and then a month later I was eighth at Junior World Champs. So, I felt like things were trending in the right direction, and we'd set a few goals and achieved them. Um, and then, yeah, as you said, I went over to America, got a scholarship over to University of Tennessee, um, and kind of had some immediate success there as well. So I won what they call the SEC Champs, which is a bigger event for the college, and then finaled in their nationals, the NCAA's, and the next step really was Rio, was the Olympics, and it was all kind of trending nicely. Um, setting PBs fairly regularly as well, so things were trending in a nice direction. Sure.
Do you just want to talk us through a little bit about 2016? Because you said things were trending nicely. You went into Rio. Do you just want to talk us through that 2016 season?
Yeah, I mean the season on a whole was actually a really good season. So to qualify for the Olympics, our first event was the Oceania Champs end of 2015, and we went down to was it Melbourne, and I set a PB there, and so I didn't win the event to qualify a spot, but I felt really good about going into the World Cup a few months later, and so the qualifying process is basically if you can make top 18, you're in a pretty good spot to qualify for the Olympics, and so uh, time basically I just missed one dive quite bad, front 3.5 pike. Um, I think I got fours on it, something like that, and I finished 26 or something like that. So it didn't quite go to plan, and that's sport, right? And that was a big learning for me, I guess, and it took me quite a while, probably to process the fact that it didn't go to plan. Um, And, at the time, I still felt like I was in with a chance. The way that the qualifying works is kind of a bit of a waiting list that I was on. Um, but yeah, the rest of the season actually went really well. So, I carried on. I actually won NCAA's, which was the university competition I was in. Um, I think I set a New Zealand record that year. And I think when I finally figured out that I'd missed out on Rio, I think I couldn't quite believe it. And so to deal with it, I kind of just put my head down and just trained even harder and thought about the rest of the season. And um, I suppose didn't want to kind of face that feeling of missing out on my dream and stuff.
So can we then, just from that, you've had a good upward trajectory. Things have been going well. Obviously, you missed Rio, which was a bit gutting. But if we just fast forward to post Gold Coast 2018, then what goes up came down a little bit. Do you just want to talk us through a couple of the setbacks that you had around that time? Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, from Rio through to Gold Coast, I had some incredible highs. I had a few international medals, some more PBs, uh, and then, as I said, I think I just kind of put my head down and started training even harder. And looking back, I probably should have taken some time off and kind of dealt with the emotions of missing out on Rio and stuff like that. But um, I just started to burn out a bit, and so uh, my energy was going low, um, wasn't sleeping well. My dive started to become really difficult. I was weak. My technique was breaking down because I was trying to muscle my dives, and um, right before Gold Coast, I did some blood tests and found that I had extremely low testosterone, which doesn't help with performance. So that's a key hormone for energy and for muscle build and being lean and sleeping and things like that. And so I think the big question was why, and looking back, I was just burnt out. I just needed to take some time off. But again, I felt, oh, well, I can just train harder and regain my strength. But it didn't quite work. So, yeah, as you said, Gold Coast, two personal worsts. And it was a bit of a low point. Kind of, I've just come off a fantastic season the year before, and then now I actually had to change my list because I couldn't even make some of my dives. So it was a sort of what goes up must come down. It was an interesting experience.
and then on the back of the low testosterone, what happened with your back?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was extremely burnt out, and I took some time off, and I came back and I did the 2019 season, and it wasn't great. Um, and leading into 2020, I broke my foot, took some time off, and I came back a bit fast. And long story short, my back went, and so I had a bulging disc, which was basically compressing on my nerve. And if anyone's ever had sciatica pain, they call it, basically nerve pain down the leg. So I couldn't bend forwards, I couldn't make a pike shape or jump or anything like that. And it was pretty significant, the pain. And so I kind of had to step away from diving. And I actually thought at the time, I probably won't come back to diving. Um, I remember just thinking, I actually just want daily life pain free back again and stuff like that. So um, it was a real interesting time because it made me think about life without diving and explore, other things that I'm good at or that I'm interested in, and kind of, I suppose, face that who am I kind of thing that athletes tend to talk about when they retire. Um, and yeah, I mean, slowly my back started to get better, and I started to do some gym training, and felt actually maybe I could give diving a crack. Um, I think in my heart of hearts, I never really thought I was done with diving, but I felt like maybe I might have to be. Um, and yeah, I think in a funny way, the back injury was probably the best thing that happened to me because it forced me to rest. Or, I was out of diving for a year and a half, 2 years, and it forced me to rest. It forced me to probably process some things around, missing out on Rio and Gold Coast not going very well, and um, finishing my university career not well after starting it so well. And I think it just gave me time to think about who am I outside of diving as well. So when I came back to diving, I enjoyed it so much more, had such an appreciation for the fact that I could even dive. And really, I just wanted to be there because I loved it. And so I think that was the start of kind of another trajectory of things going well, which kind of, brings me to where I am now, I suppose.
So you've had these amazing high, then the lowest of lows, enforced time off where you did a lot of reflection, and then you came back and you just had an enormous sense of gratitude for being able to get on the boards. What Coming back into it after you've had that time off, what tweaks did you make to your training, to the way you approach training, approach diving? And did you develop any strategies with that time off, knowing that, like you said, in your heart of hearts, you knew you were going to get back into it? Did you have any new strategies as well? So you had a new approach, new strategies, and also as well, just how did you cope with that time away, apart from the reflection side of it?
Well, I think one strategy was, or one thing I learned was, listening to my body. Um, you know, I pushed it so hard and pushed through pain and hadn't fueled it properly. And, through that burnout time, I'd not developed the best relationship with fueling myself properly. And so, I had time to reflect on those things and kind of go, actually, that I just went about that the wrong way. And so, I was forced, I came back to diving and I just wanted to go straight back in, but I couldn't. My back would give me signals that I pushed it a bit much, and I had to learn to listen to those. And, I've had other little injuries along the way, and it's something that I'm always having to remind myself of, to listen to my body, but it is something that I'm a lot better at now. Um, and I think that's a big strength. Uh, Looking back, it's in some ways admirable to push through pain, but it catches up to you, and it's, looking at it from the long term, it's never the best thing. So that's probably one thing. Just knowing, that I've had such a low where I couldn't even dive anywhere near the level that I'm diving at now. I just I think I just really enjoy it a lot more now, and appreciate the fact that I can dive at a high level. And I think that helps as well. When you're enjoying something, you generally perform a bit better at it. And uh, yeah, I suppose just the desire to I've still got a few more goals I want to achieve, and feel that I'm back on a path where I can achieve those.
All right, Liam, just to wrap up with us, because then we could maybe finish with a few questions. If you had, this is the same question I asked to Lizzie as well when we wrapped up with Lizzie. If you got one little bit of advice that you could pass on, what would that be?
Yeah, I honestly think just keep showing up. Like, um, when you have passion for something, and you feel you have purpose in that thing, and you believe in yourself, it's it's never always going to go to plan. And there's going to be days where you question yourself, and there's going to be times where it's hard, but you just literally just keep showing up, and things will get better. You can't learn if you don't show up. You can't improve if you don't show up. And I think that's something that I've kind of always said to myself is just don't quit. Like, just keep going, and things will get better. There's a saying like, "This too shall pass," and I look back, and I think that's one thing I've always done is I've just always kept showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up, and it's quite simple, I guess. It's something that anyone can do. Is if nothing else, you can just show up.
Be the best at the things that require no talent.
Yeah, and that too, right? And another thing, I say keep showing up, but I think sometimes I took that to the extreme of what I thought that meant, and that was always show up, even if you're in pain, even if you're this or that. But showing up doesn't necessarily mean you have to go 100% at training. Showing up might actually be, oh, you need to take a recovery day. And sometimes it's harder to show up to those things than it is to just put your head down and train. So, but I suppose, from a more macro point of view, when things get really hard, it can be easy to just walk away and go, oh, maybe it's just not for me. But yeah.
All right, we'll wrap it up there, Liam. Thank you so much for being so honest and open about your journey. If anyone's got any questions for Liam, please fire away.
No, well,
No
thanks.
question, but I thought it was just a really interesting story. Obviously, I've seen you throughout this whole period, so really interesting to hear your story.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm the same, Liam, if you can hear me. I'm not so good with technology. I think it's always wonderful just to listen to athletes' insights, especially someone who's been around and done so much. And I think that even though I feel I've coached for 2 lifetimes, I always find when I listen to an athlete something either that reminds me or teaches me about something that I need to do when I'm coaching. And I just really sort of connected with that period that you had there where you were frustrated and pushed in harder because you thought that's rather than being smarter. And I think what you've evolved into is someone who's much smarter now with what you do. So you've got a really strong message, not just for yourself and what you're trying to do now, but to others. I think you're quite the role model out there, not just for divers in New Zealand, but in the world. I think you've got a good message at the minute, and I wish you every success with it.
Thanks, Eddie. Appreciate it.
Oh, I've just got a little message in the oh, hold on. I'm not very good with technology neither. Where am I? It's got a message in the chat. Where's that?
I'm listening in from Dunedin. Mum from a young.
Oh, yeah.
Training, but it's been amazing. Thank you for your time. Oh, thanks for listening.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for listening. I'll wrap up now then. Thank you everyone for your time. I'd also just like to thank Ed and Adi for tuning in from Brisbane. I hope the hurricane passes and you guys are nice and safe. And I'd just like to extend the invite for you guys down the line to bring some of your divers in, and we could do this. We're hoping that this could evolve into something a little bit bigger. And we're also currently looking to do it with a few other sports as well. Cordelia and I have been talking to the guys that we were on a coaching cohort with from High Performance Sport New Zealand. So we just like to evolve this, because I think, like Adi says and Ed says, it's really great to listen to athletes' stories.
Definitely. Let us know what we can do.
Yep. Absolutely. We'll keep you in the loop. All right. Thanks so much for everyone. And special thanks to Liam.